What's up everybody, I'm Big Cam and welcome back to another movie review, and today we are talking about 1990s from director Martin Scorsese, Goodfellas. And Goodfellas to me is one of those movies that I was forced to watch as a kid and didn't understand with my father, but it was one of the few movies that I was forced to watch with my dad that I enjoyed. And I was like, I don't know why I enjoy this, but this movie's an all-timer. And then growing up, this was an iconic movie for me through high school, and now as an older, out of high school, 20-something-year-old, this movie is iconic. Now, this came out in 1990, that's 9 years before I was born, but I still have such love and appreciation for this movie, being from the Northeast and knowing wise guys and knowing Goodfellas and type of people like this, that you're like, hey, you probably shouldn't mess with them if you don't want to end up in the wrong places sleeping with the fishes, you know what I'm saying? But the cast in this, Robert De Niro playing Jimmy Conway, Ray Liotta playing Henry Hill is so perfect, but watching it in 2025, he's playing a 21-year-old in the film, and it's like, for a 21-year-old, he had a lot of connections. And then I looked it up, he was like 36 playing a 21-year-old. I was like, they just did it differently back in the 90s, but like, you know, I feel like they could have got somebody that looked 21, because you look at him and they're like, he's 21. You look at Ray and you're like, shit, he's at least 50. You know, he's got 3 kids, 2 wives, you know, like, he's old in this movie, but, you know, he's the youngest of the 3, because Joe Pesci plays Tommy, and Jimmy Conway by Robert De Niro, and the 3 of them together are like really, really good. I mean, I think De Niro and Pesci are iconic together always, but when they add Ray Liotta into this mix of the 3 of them, and then you got people like LORRAINE BRACCO playing Karen Hill, who ends up being like the therapist for Tony Soprano, right? And so in The Sopranos, Paul Sorvino playing Paul Cicero, Paulie. Just a bunch of Italian guys with real thick Italian names. Tommy's mom, Joe Pesci's mother in this movie, is actually Martin Scorsese's real mother, and he didn't give her any lines. He just said, hey, go sit down, and just start talking to him. Why you eat? Oh, you don't have any woman. Right, like, and she's perfect. She does such a good job. And the way he shot this is great. Debbie Mazar plays Sandy. She's just, I always thought she was sexy as hell. Christopher Moltisanti from The Sopranos, played by Michael Imperioli, plays Spider in this. And he has a terrible, poor kid, has a terrible fate in this, but you're like, ah, man, he'll go on to do good things. Don't worry about it. Tony Cicero is Tony Stacks. He plays Paulie, I think, in Sopranos. He's like one of those, you know, it's one of these things where, like, you see an old movie like this and you're like, yeah, no, anyone in one of these early Italian gangster mob movies, in any Italian movie where there's gangsters or mob members or Sopranos or anything like that, where there's Italian guys that need to be big, thick, authentic Italian guys with the accents, with the attitude, with the look, with the voice, they're all from like movies like this, and you're like, yeah, no, all these same guys are in Casino, The Sopranos, A Bronx Tale just recently I watched, and some of these guys are in that, including De Niro, a couple of the other guys. You know, there's just so many of these Italian gangster movies where these guys just kind of roll over and you're like, oh, he played Paulie in that, and he's playing Tony in this, and his real name's Tony, alright. Like, makes sense. You know, some of these guys are playing themselves, you know, like one of the guys' name was Henny Youngman, playing Henny Youngman, you know, and you're like, oh, okay. Didn't need much change in there. I mean, Tony Cicero or Tony Sirico is playing Tony Stacks. You know, not very much different from who he probably was in real life. You know, like, but the cast in this is tremendous. It's shot very well. It's got a great story, and you know, the first hour and a half, it paints this depiction of like, yeah, being a gangster is what everyone wants. And then the last half of the movie paints the reality of where being a gangster ends up, and you end up alone and nobody cares about you, and they end up all turning their backs on you for money, and they just want money, and if you ain't got the money, fuck you, pay me. And you know, it takes you on this incredible arc of where he started as a young boy and then he becomes a gangster, and then he has to, you know, find his way after gangsterness, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying not to spoil it for a 30-something-year-old movie, but if you haven't seen this movie, I can't recommend it enough. Go check it out, because Martin Scorsese did the damn thing with this and the cast. And if you're a Northeast person, you like a gangster tale, you like a mobster movie, really, really good, and I highly recommend it. This is one of my favorites, and I have no notes for it, honestly. 5 out of 5 stars for Mr. Martin Scorsese, a 10 out of 10. You know, I don't hand out those very often. Even A Bronx Tale, a movie I think I like slightly more than this movie, personally, but I don't think it's as good a movie as this. You know what I mean? Like, you can like a movie a lot, and it still not be good. You know what I mean? Like, there's some movies that are like 1 to 2 stars that I really like, you know what I mean? But you just can't not acknowledge that it's a bad movie, but I really like it nonetheless, you know? Is that a bad thing? No, you know, it's all about your taste. So if you didn't like this movie, comment below your thoughts. I would love to hear it. You don't need to agree with me, it's just my opinion. I would love to hear yours. What movies from Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci, what are your favorite movies from these guys? Did you love this movie? Maybe you're before 1990, maybe you're an older person than me, and maybe you got to see this in the theaters back in 1990. What was that experience like? I'd love to hear those type of things down in the comment section below. If you got any movie recommendations for me like this, any of the gangster tales, I think I'm going to go through and do quite a few of these Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro type of deals. I might go do like The Godfather, which I don't think I've ever seen fully. I mean, it's one of those movies I got forced to watch when I was a kid, and then, you know, trauma just kind of blanks out of your memory, and you have so many other things that you're trying to store in there that you just don't remember it. But I'm sure once I start watching it, I'll go, yeah, I remember this, but, you know, as an adult, I haven't sat down and dedicated some time to watching it, and I plan to do that pretty soon. So if that would be something you want to see, comment below. Movie recommendations, leave those down in the comment section below for me, or you can message them to me on my other social medias. Links down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for coming on by. If you'd like to support me and support the channel, the best way to do that is sharing this video with a friend, hitting that bell so you get the notifications and you don't miss future videos, liking, commenting, subscribing, all good ways and the best ways to support me and support the channel. And if you've made it this far, I highly appreciate you, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace!